So it looks like the high resolution version of the Canon EOS R5 is coming, and we know a little bit more about it. So for a long time, this camera has been speculated. Assumingly, it will be called the Canon EOS R5s, which kind of goes with the tradition of the 5DS, which is their high resolution DSLR camera. The R5s was rumored a while back ago, really right after the R5 came out. There was talks of a high resolution version of that camera, but all the rumors went silent, and with all the different things that's happened in the world since then, many of us had suspected that possibly this camera was on the chopping block and wasn't going to be coming out. Now, I did put this as my number 5 as the most likely cameras coming out in 2022, so it looks like I may be right here because Canon Rumors has it as a CR2 that this camera is still coming and possibly coming soon. So CR2 from Canon Rumors means that they got it from a very reliable source, but they do not consider it to be fact just yet. But I do believe that a CR2 is fairly reliable and they usually come to pass. Now, we do not have much information or specs about this camera, but they do say that it will have a 75 megapixel sensor, which is actually a little bit lower than a lot of people had been expecting and what some of the previous rumors had said. They thought that it would come in maybe somewhere around 100 megapixels, but it seems like 75 is where they're gonna land. Now, personally, I think that 75 megapixels is plenty. And I think that that will be very satisfactory to a lot of people, especially if they can keep the speed up. Now, I would kind of guess that they're going to go for somewhere around the 10 frames per second. That is what the Sony A7R V is advertised at this moment. And they have a 64 megapixel sensor. So if they have the 64 megapixel sensor, it could be 61. It's somewhere around the 60 range. If they have that coming in at 10 frames per second, or at least advertised at that, then I can see that Canon maybe would want to bring a 10 frames per second camera at 75 megapixels, and that would be very impressive. Canon Rumors do say that Canon is looking to get the high megapixel crown back, because they did own that with the DSLRs until the Sony A7R V came out. Now, whether this will be enough to hold the crown for long is definitely going to be a big question, because Sony is posed to release their Sony A7R V this year. Now, personally, I've said in the past that I wouldn't be surprised if the Sony A7R V keeps the same sensor from the A7R IV, but they add extra speed along with the new autofocusing system and some of the different quality of life things like the new menu and the slightly different ergonomics that the A7 IV actually has at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, but there has been rumors saying that they're looking for maybe a 100 megapixel sensor, which is absolutely insane. I do think that they're going to still try to keep that 10 frames per second, even if it is up at 100 megapixels. I know a lot of people said that they don't believe that Sony could push 100 megapixels at 10 frames per second, but if they do have the same dual bions processor from the Sony Alpha 1 that is capable of pushing the Sony Alpha 1 at 30 frames per second, at least in electronic, and that has a 50 megapixel sensor, I do believe that they could at least push 10 frames per second at 100 megapixels. Now, will they go for maybe even more speed at the 64 megapixels or 61? I'm going to confuse that this entire time. It will be interesting to see which path Sony decides to go. And I'm personally interested to see how this high resolution battle plays out between Canon and Sony. But that's all the information that I have for today. I know that a lot of people are very excited about these cameras, so I will be sure to give more information as it comes in. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Until next time, peace.